Imagine a truth so universally accepted that it hardens into a physical object, a belief that reproduces itself perfectly across every human interaction, resisting any revision. In the one distinction theory of everything, a reality with this level of absolute certainty is called the stone. When we confront a monolithic consensus like this, we tend to assume a simple vulnerability. We think that a single, determined mind starting to openly question the system is all it takes to plant the seeds of its destruction. This assumption drives our cultural obsession with the solitary skeptic. We build narratives around the lone rebel, convinced that an isolated act of disbelief serves as the ultimate weapon against collective agreement. But when subjected to rigorous mathematical testing, that narrative collapses. Researcher Anton Pankratov's framework, verified structurally to 50 decimal places, proves the solitary doubter is mathematically ineffective. To understand why, we have to look at a metric called collective coherence. This measures exactly how tightly a shared reality is woven together by the network of observers who believe in it. On this chart, introducing individual doubt into a highly coherent system triggers a counterintuitive reaction. The contraction modulus drops to a tighter value. This crossover sits precisely at 0.707. Only below this line does doubt loosen the system's grip. While coherence remains above that point, an isolated skeptic fighting against a strong consensus achieves nothing destructive. The system simply absorbs their resistance. A high-coherence stone actively digests isolated acts of questioning, using that very friction to lock its structure down even tighter. If a solitary doubter only reinforces the walls, something else must serve as the mathematical trigger to break a locked paradigm. The solution requires shifting our focus away from the isolation of an individual mind and toward the interconnected web of the entire population. The operative control lever for changing reality is not the total volume of skepticism, it is the variance of doubt across different observers. This network graph shows two populations. On the left, a society where everyone doubts a little bit uniformly. On the right, a society fracturing into two deeply opposed factions, with an unequal, heterogeneous spread of belief. Deep polarization, where groups possess sharply contrasting levels of certainty, forcefully drives collective coherence down toward the structural floor. The split dismantles the paradigm where uniform skepticism failed. As the variance of doubt spikes, the collective coherence plunges. It steadily descends until it strikes a mathematically defined overlap threshold. Crossing this threshold creates a physical consequence. The basin holding the old reality together dissolves, emptying out its structural stability. We can measure this collapse through three specific signatures. First, the mathematical lifetime of the current consensus drops superlinearly, accelerating toward zero. Second, the system enters a state of multiplicity. Rather than supporting one single truth, the mathematics admit multiple competing successor realities as valid possibilities. Third, the configuration completely unfreezes. The stochastic dispersion allows the underlying belief system to migrate away from its original position. A massive drop in lifespan, the inflation of competing truths, and the unlocking of the system. All three are overdetermined by one single knob: falling coherence. The old reality loses its strict uniqueness and enters an explicit transition regime. The lock is released. It is a crossing point of maximum chaos. The previous truth has lost its structural integrity, but the successor has yet to align and take its place. When a shared basin of reality dissolves, it raises a terrifying operational question. Why doesn't the system simply collapse into nothingness, leaving observers stranded in a void? The mathematics prevent total collapse via the viability guard. This explicit parameter, held firmly above 1, ensures the system remains in a viable state of rebirth while crossing the chaotic threshold. This is mandated by the continuity axiom. Reality transition must be a continuous barrier crossing within the configuration space. A reality cannot be torn. The transition is a meticulously managed process. The universe avoids nihilism by ensuring controlled passage, surviving the death of its own facts. Out of the multiple competing paths, a single candidate eventually aligns with the collective belief gradient, pulling the surviving observers into a new basin and locking into place as the next stone. Yet this new consensus faces an absolute limitation. This formula dictates the ceiling of irreducible doubt. Collective coherence can never physically reach 100%. The maximum attainable coherence is roughly 98%. Every reality, no matter how tightly policed or intensely believed, contains a latent 2% of irreducible doubt that cannot be squeezed out. Because of this permanent, unactuatable sliver of doubt, absolute permanence is a mathematical impossibility. Existence is a sequence of mathematically stabilized agreements. Every seemingly eternal truth is simply a temporary consensus, holding its breath until the next transition.